So let's get started, and I will just ask the couples to introduce yourselves and give us some information about you.
Hi, I'm Jay Turner. This is my wife, Jessica.
Hello.
We've been married for, well, since 2006. I don't know how many years that is. I don't do math anymore. 12 years? Okay.
Almost
Sounds
13.
like a guy from
Going on
Mountain
13.
America.
Yeah, I have computers to do math for me nowadays. I don't need to use a brain for that. When we met, Jessica was already sick. She was kind of in the discovery phase of figuring out what is going on with my life. And so it's been part of our relationship for as long as we've been around.
We have 3 kids, and we've got a 9-year-old, a 5-year-old, and a 1.5-year-old. And somehow I survived 3 pregnancies, and
So did I.
somehow he survived taking care of them after. You know, I grew the baby and got him here, and then it kind of dumped most of the care onto Jay. So he's an amazing dad and husband, and we're excited to be a part of the discussion. Okay.
Wow is right. Yeah, I don't think I think it would be tough for me to choose someone that I knew was sick, you know, and so
She made it really
You just
easy.
got lucky.
that's yeah. I did get lucky, but yeah, that's hats off to you. That's really great.
So, this is Mark, and I'm Christy, and we've been married for 17 years.
She does math.
Yeah, and I was diagnosed with fibromyalgia in 2007, and with chronic fatigue syndrome or ME, in 2014. So I was already under the care of Dr. Bateman, which I feel very fortunate for, because she was able to recognize the chronic fatigue syndrome, ME, really early on with me and helped me a lot with that. So, yeah, we were married we got married in 2000. I had 1 child at the time from a previous marriage, and he had 6, and we have 1 together. So we were busy, and
Still are.
yeah, yeah, and I lost my train of thought, but
Well, that's pretty
I'm
much us right
it.
there, yeah.
That's your story.
So, well, maybe a little bit more. Christy was working as a registered nurse. We had some financial situations that she had to go back to work, and then she was working the 40 hours. She's a great nurse and loves it, but then she had to cut back to 30 hours because it was killing her, and then she had to cut back to 20 hours because it was killing her, and they said, nope, you can't work. You can only work 30 minimum per week. We can't have you if you're 20, so she had to, stop working, and it's kind of a good thing because I think, she was kind of going down a slippery slope, and we're still kind of in the bottom of it, but she's quick going down, I think, so.
yeah. I'm
That's a
able to
plus.
pace better.
Yeah.
Okay, well, thank you guys for your introductions. So the Bateman Horn Center hosted a screening of Unrest when it first premiered about a year ago at the Sundance Film Festival. And since then, Unrest has really had incredible success. It has been widely seen both nationally and internationally. It's won many awards at the different film festivals. It has been shown on PBS and Netflix. It's received many positive reviews in newspapers, interviews, online articles, and it made the short list to possibly receive an Academy Award. That means it was in the top 15 of the documentaries. That's quite an accomplishment. So kind of with all that success, what does that success mean to you guys?
Well, for me, it's really about visibility. For so long, so many people have said they're uncomfortable talking about this with people. They don't really feel like it's something they can go out and say, oh yeah, this is really what I'm dealing with on a daily basis. There's a stigma to it that people don't feel comfortable discussing what's going on in their personal life when they have these illnesses. And so this is not the first documentary. This is not the first one that's come out on CFS, on fibromyalgia, but it's the first one that's come out and gotten such a huge response to it that now people are seeing it, they're thinking about it, they're talking about it. There's still that trepidation because you don't want to, a lot of folks don't want to invite that kind of attention or scrutiny to their life, and so there's still some worry there, but it's starting to break the ice. It's getting it so people are talking about it now.
I wanted to talk about, I was lucky enough to get to go to the Sundance film screening. It was the premiere. And I knew a little bit about it going to this event. I knew that it was a new documentary, and I was excited. And I just have to say, it blew me away. I was not prepared for how much it would touch my heart and inspire me. And I went with my mom. Jay wasn't able to come that time. But it was actually perfect. You know, my mom's been there with me. She knew me before I was sick, and she's been there with me the whole difficult journey, and we sat there watching this film, holding hands, just with tears coming down our faces, because scene after scene, it just hit exactly what our experience has been, and it meant so much to have somebody articulate it so well in a film and show it through storytelling and people's stories, experiences. It was a really neat experience, and it was especially fun because it was the premiere, which again I didn't know I was going to like the premiere, and this was the first time that Jen and Omar had showed the film to patients, and she was able to come up afterward for a little bit of discussion, and it was the neatest thing she was just overcome with emotion too, to see the reaction of patients like her. And I'm sure when you're working on a project like this, you don't know how it's going to be received, and you can tell she put her heart and soul into it. So it was a really neat experience, and I'm so thrilled by the response that's been going on online, and I've heard just little bits about medical schools are considering showing this show as part of their curriculum, and I've heard people are doing little house parties throughout their communities to show it. And when it came out on Netflix, I was like jumping around the house. I was so excited. Maybe not literally, but in my heart I was. And so this film is, I can't say enough about it. What do you guys think?
I think that, just that there, she has this platform is so well done, and I just really appreciate her sharing such intimate moments and her vulnerabilities, and I just think it's very brave, and just the fact that the film has done so well, I think that there is now going to be more awareness, and hopefully, with people in the medical profession, we'll start to have more physicians who are able to diagnose and treat, and it's starting a conversation. Yeah, so.
Ditto on everything.
Ditto.
This is just a question for especially Christy and Jessica, is there benefit to being able to see those things? Because in the past we've had conversations with people. We've talked about what it's like on a day-to-day basis. We've talked about what those moments feel like. But being able to see it and to have something that you can actually look at and not just think about it, but to actually visualize it, what does that do?
To show like real life,
Yeah.
down to earth.
Because it's not like you're...
scenes like where she's climbing up the stairs, and yeah, it's a long scene, but it takes her a long time to get up those stairs, and that's just really real.
Mm-hmm.
I actually haven't shown it's just recently come out on Netflix, but I haven't had the opportunity to show it to any of my family members yet. But part of the reason I'm a little bit hesitant to do that is simply because the people in this documentary, most of them are in much worse shape than I am. You know, they're bedridden or just severely disabled, and because I'm able to get up and moving around, I don't want my family members to think, oh, well, this doesn't make sense. This isn't what you have, you know. But I think, and Jen says early on in the documentary that this is a spectrum disorder. You know, there are some people who are able to continue working, and other people who are bedridden and everywhere in between. So.
Oh, that just left me. Hold on. Oh, okay. Well, one thing I really liked was she was a film student at Princeton, and she started filming herself before she knew what she had. And so she kind of was like in this sweet ignorant part where she didn't have to, I think a lot of us who've been dealing with this, we would just be kind of, I don't know if the word embarrassed, but we wouldn't want someone seeing us when I'm passed out in bed drooling all over myself, because, and so I just love that. I love that she started this whole thing as an exploration and just trying to document what is going on. Something's going on here, and the fact that she did that is what I think moved her own progression so fast, because she could go to the doctor and she would show him this movie, say, okay, look, I was up around the house, and then all of a sudden, boom, this is what happened, and show them the movie. And I think I would never think to do that, A, and B, it helped her so much. And to me, I just really appreciate that. What were you going to say? Oh.
Yeah, I think at the beginning of the illness, probably most people are just like, what is happening to me? This is, it just feels so crazy.
Especially because it starts out as a normal virus for most folks. We just feel like, oh, this has taken me a longer time to get over this.
Yeah.
This is just, it's just harder for my body. I'll get over it. It's just taking longer. And I think we kind of you don't realize that it's not just a normal virus.
Right. Well,
and
then
to the doctors,
you can go to a doctor. Go to a doctor. And I was told a couple things, like, like how she was told that she was just stressed, but I was told, oh, well, you're just deconditioned. And I'm thinking, well, just yesterday I was able to hold that phone up to my ear, no problem. And today it feels like I'm holding a 25-pound weight, So I know that my muscle strength is still there, but, something is wrong. There's just no muscle energy. So, yeah.
This is a great conversation, and thanks you guys for sharing it with us. Let's switch now and talk about some of the scenes in the movie that particularly stood out to you, and why you're talking about these particular scenes.
Should I?
Yeah.
No, I'll start.
Yeah, go ahead.
I think the scenes that really stood out to me probably are the scenes where you can just see how much Jen and Omar, the love and support they have, and especially Omar has for Jen. So one scene was after they just returned from the parade, which was really noisy, and Jen gets back, and she's got an excruciating headache, and she's just sitting there, and Omar goes to help her get out of the wheelchair, and she's just saying, no, don't touch me, just, let me do this. And I think a lot of people, because with this illness, you're sensitive to a lot of different things. You're sensitive to sound and light and touch, and often you're in a lot of pain. And so that you just are irritable sometimes. And so I think another person would often, or would reasonably take that as, oh, you know, they don't want me around, they're pushing me away. But what was really neat about Omar is he gave her space, but he didn't leave her. He didn't think, oh, I'm just being a bother, she doesn't need me around. But he stayed with her, he didn't disengage, he just stayed engaged and tried to be supportive and helpful and rubbed that
Yeah.
ointment on her head, and
He just was patient.
yeah, just patient, but and just didn't disengage. And then the other scene was when they were dancing, and I love that because they're still dancing, even though she's not doing well. They're still dancing together, and you know, eventually she just kind of falls to the ground. I'm guessing, out of energy, and he just helps her to the ground and then gets down on the ground and sits with her. So I know that sometimes, you know, if we're sitting by each other and kind of close, that sometimes I won't be able to have Mark touching my arm because it's just a little bit painful, and so I'll probably seem irritable. So I have to explain to him, you know, it's not you. I still love you. It's just that the way your coat is rubbing my arm right there is just irritating me. It's just hurting, you know.
Yeah, there's a lot of those
So-
type of things that happen,
Yeah.
but so for me, that scene that Christy described, where she's on the stairs and and she says, "Just get away!" Can't even say words, and he doesn't. He stays engaged. And Christy has mentioned, just stay engaged, not in the moment, but on another occasion. Oh, you got to stay engaged with me.
Yeah, like, don't
and that-
just leave me.
Yeah, that really brought it home for me to say, oh, so that's to just hang out there and be available, let her know that you're still, important to me and I'm supporting you. Where, most of the time I think, well, I'm going to support you by respecting, you want your space, your distance, I'll back off, But that's not necessarily what she wants every time.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Then you just feel like, oh, great, now my symptoms are making it so this other person can't be around me. So,
Can I jump in on that one too for a
Yeah.
sec? I want to step back on it a little bit too, because I like the setup for it, because it kind of shows her, hey, I'm on this new medicine, I'm doing all right, I'm walking through the garden,
Yeah.
I'm getting in the car, and I'm like, I'm doing all right. And Omar's putting the wheelchair in the back of the car.
I like
he
it
knows
when-
what's up.
She's like, I am good, hon. I am so
Yeah.
good. And he's like, you okay? He's the skeptical one. She's like, this is going to be such a fun day. I can just see her head. She's like,
Yeah.
I'm going to the reunion. It's going to be so fun.
Yeah, it shows her clapping and having a good time and yelling and waving at the people in the parade and giving hugs, and cuts back to the parade, and then the next scene that it cuts back to her, she's like this.
Yeah,
She's
got
still watching the
look.
parade. She's still there. She's still physically at the parade. Cuts back and shows people walking and marching and laughing, and cuts back to her, and now she's on the ground. She's got her eyes closed.
with her hands over
Hands
her
over her
ears.
ears, cuts back, shows the parade, comes back to her, and she's like just totally away from the parade. She's removed herself from the situation. She's laying on the ground, and it like keeps getting worse and worse until she's in the car, and she's almost like upside down in the car, like watching that progression of, yes, I'm so excited, to not so much, to ooh.
This
not
was
good
a
at all.
horrible idea.
And as a caregiver, we have to start recognizing that moment where it starts to shift. Not only the moment that it starts to shift, but we're preemptive. We're like, yeah, I'm bringing this wheelchair anyway. I'm going to pop this in the car. And being that proactive to say, okay, we need to scale this down a little bit. We got to be careful with this. We're kind of in, I feel like we're in that this week. We've started a new medication, and Jessica's been hunky-dory for a couple hours each day. In the back of my head, I'm just thinking, okay,
Don't overdo it.
we'll be all right, but let's take this easy.
Let's pay.
Let's chill for a
Even
bit.
in my head, I'm like, it may be placebo, it may be the meds.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Mhm. And that's the thing is, being the one ill, you have to be the one, a lot of times, to try to hold yourself back. You know, so you want to get out there and just embrace life passionately, but then at the same time you're like, oh, well, I need to be careful, need to not do too much, and yeah.
You said that about when they were out in the desert walking. What did you say about that one?
Oh, and she was like, I'm walking down a path. And he's like, uh-huh. And
Remember,
and
you're gonna have
she's
to
like,
walk.
look, he's like, remember, you're going to have to walk back. And
Yeah.
I leaned over and I said, in his head, he's like, I'm going to have to carry her back up this whole thing. And she's like, look, I'm walking. And that's how my heart feels. Is like the second you feel a teeny bit better, you're like, woohoo! And
Well,
Yeah.
you know, there are a lot of scenes where you see the strong love and bond that Jen and Omar have for each other despite Jen's illness. And even though Omar is so supportive of Jen, there was that scene about the mold avoidance, you know, the tent thing, where Omar reached his breaking point when Jen asked him to shower and change his clothes every time he went in and out of the house. So, as a couple, is that a relatable scene? And if so, what are your coping mechanisms when just can't take it any longer?
can I jump in on that one? I can. We've never tried anything quite that extreme at this point. You know, we haven't.
We haven't progressed into hookworm.
Yeah, we haven't done hookworms. You know, we haven't. However, I can relate to the feeling of when you're ready to try something, you're all in, and you're just almost paranoid about getting it right because you're like, if I'm going to try this, I got to make sure I do it exactly right. Because if you don't, you're going to be doubting later. You're going to be like, well, maybe I didn't do it long enough, or maybe I didn't totally clear out the mold, and you just start. You know, I can understand just like that desire because she looks. It could be taken that she's a little unhinged, right? She's a little bit off her rocker, being so unrealistic that she's going to make him change his clothes every time he goes in or out of the house. And I think it just stems from kind of. It's a little bit of desperation, and it's a little bit of like, I just really want to get this right. And I can relate to that when we've tried different things and like trying to go off gluten to see if that would help and different things, and you just become so consumed with you just want it to work so badly. How about you guys?
Yeah, no, that we talked about this also, the desperation of, well, we'll try anything, you know, to see if this will work, because we want to be normal, and you know, so they make those desperate attempts to try whatever it is they're going to do, which they do, and we kind of have done some of those type of things, but you know, and sometimes, you know, in our case, and I think in the case in the film that was shown, is that you know, it's a little over the top, and you kind of have to say, well, there's a limit, you know, to how far we're going to take this, but it just shows how well. So the one thing that impacted me the most about this is that it's real. This is real. I mean, they look like they're totally fine, these two ladies here, and but their health, I mean, they're not physically well. It's not a mental thing, and you know, and how desperate these people are to get back to a normal life. They totally wish they could be. It's not. They don't wish this. They're not trying to get out of work. They're not trying to this kind of type of thing. It's not a. They're not scamming anyone. They really want to get better. And so that is what impacted me the most about this whole film, documentary, and it's a real deal.
So,
I like.
I'm
Sorry.
I was just going to say, with the things that you've tried, have you found any successes that you would like to share? I'm sure people are going, wonder what they, you know, wonder if anything worked for them.
Well, we mentioned that I stopped working, and that was that was helpful because now I'm able to take Dr. Bateman's advice and pace myself better throughout the day. So pacing has been really helpful. Medications, I've tried various medications and some haven't worked and some have worked better. And I think the medications that have worked best for me are those, or helped me the most, are those that help me to sleep. I just remember starting gabapentin and getting on a better little nighttime cocktail of medications that just helped me sleep better. And I found that my energy was better, after I was sleeping better. My pain wasn't as bad. My mood, of course, was better. And so that was really helpful. And then I've tried physical therapy. I used to be a fitness instructor, and so it's always been really important to me to stay physically fit. And I was worried I was getting deconditioned, and so I started some physical therapy, and in hopes to retain my muscle, and that was kind of a trade-off for me. I was getting stronger because of the physical therapy, and it was water physical therapy that I was doing, which I would recommend. But it would take me, so I would be able to get through my physical therapy just fine, and I was getting stronger, but I would find that I could only do physical therapy once or twice a week because it would take me a good 2 or 3 days to recover. So the trade-off was I do physical therapy to get stronger, but then I have to take 2 days where I feel like I have the flu and I've got chills and I can't think clearly. And so I would just say to myself, well, this is the price I'm going to have to pay in order to get my muscles physically stronger. So that kind of didn't work. Now I've resorted to walking, getting my exercise walking while I'm shopping. And so that I'm getting 2 things done at once, right?
Yeah.
So I thought I'd like to interject something that doesn't really have a lot to do. Kind of reminded me when she was talking, Christy, that one of the things that we feel really blessed about is that Christy was already seeing Dr. Bateman. Christy's mother has fibromyalgia, and so Christy suspected, well, I probably have it, so maybe there is something to hereditary, something there. But the fact that she was already seeing Dr. Bateman made it so that she could avoid a lot of these wacko ideas. And like Jen, the doctor, she goes to see the doctor, and the doctor says, oh, it's all in your mind. It's really no physical problem you have. So she walks home and collapses.
Yeah.
And so, we could avoid all that kind of thing because Dr. Bateman says, oh, you got to manage, right at the beginning. You're probably only going to get worse from here on in. Sorry to break the news, but you got to manage your energy. And
avoid relapses as much as
Exactly.
possible. Yeah.
So that was golden advice that if anybody's listening and they're just starting along this trail, take that advice. Just manage your energy. That's what's really been a great boon for Christy's health.
Yeah,
I,
sleep and pacing. Yeah.
We haven't done anything extreme that requires us to move, like out of our house or anything like that. But some of the things we've done have been just a little bit like, well, okay, all right.
Let's hear them.
Like some of my favorites are like the arm testing things where people are like, okay, how many of these supplements do you need? Oh, you need 6 of these per day. Should I pay full price or double price for these? Oh, I'm only going to get the benefit if I pay double price for these
Yeah.
supplements.
I forgot.
Yeah.
I've actually tried something
Yeah.
like that where I can't remember what it's called, where you hold on to the 2 pieces of metal. And,
Yeah.
yeah, and
Yeah.
to
The energy
decide,
testing.
the energy testing to decide which
Well, we thought,
supplements you should be on.
we need to test this, counter test it, right?
Mhm.
So if you're going to tell me how many of these pills I need,
Hmm.
well, how many donuts do I need a day? Let's hear that.
There you go.
So,
Yeah.
it's like, okay, what kind of donut? Chocolate? Yes. How many a week? Like 1, 2,
12.
12 a week? Okay. All right.
So you did a control.
Yeah, we did a
Yeah,
control.
it's
Yeah,
science.
we had to do science on the energy testing. What else have we done?
The rainbow water foot soaking things. I don't know
Yeah.
what those were.
Yeah, you know, it sucks the toxins out of your feet. I can't tell you if it helped or not.
Yeah. So
Some
just those little things that.
the water was dirty when I
Yeah.
left, so I don't know.
Mhm.
Probably sucked all my vitamins out. I don't know.
We were young, and people would always say, "Hey, you know what I did for my chronic fatigue was I
Yeah.
went to this guy over in this place."
And also there's a lot of pressure to try stuff, especially in the early phases. And I know, like, if it's a child that's sick, the parents can put a lot of pressure on them. A spouse can put a lot of pressure. Oh, I heard about this supplement. I heard about this XYZ. And I think we've learned, and it kind of came to a point, if I can share this thing, where I would try something and you just put your whole heart into it and it would flop out and your heart would be broken. And then you kind of take a break and you're ready to try something new, and whoever is pushing the latest whatever on you. And we got to a point where I think we had our son. He was pretty little. I think he was 2 or 3. And Jay saw a presentation by an alternative healthcare provider, and he came home. He said, "Oh, I think we should try this." And I was like, "Hun, look, I'm done. Like, I am emotionally and physically empty. My tank is empty. So if you want to do this, it's all on you. Like, we can ride on your faith, and we can ride on your willpower, if you will." And it ended up kind of backfiring. We learned that was not a good approach. And so we've learned that if we're going to do something, we both have to be all in. And we've also learned that it's perfectly okay not to do anything for however long you feel you need. And that's okay too. So,
And
you
along
know,
those lines, we have to get away from the "I need you to do this for me" mentality.
yeah.
It's more of
yeah.
a "we need to do this for
What do you
us"
think? Yeah.
mentality.
Because it turned, when he kind of was pushing, and he's not a pushy guy. It was just this, I felt like this pressure. I really want you to try this thing. And then when it didn't work out, then it was like, well, you're the one who pushed it on me, and now we blew all this money, and my heart's broken again, and all these things. And so that's just a lesson learned. And I love in the film that they appear to be all in together on stuff. And the fact that he would try it with her, like, he's sitting there putting the tapeworm on himself. I was like, wow, that's...
Yeah.
You gonna eat that bone marrow with her? Okay, like, you are a tough guy.
Yeah. So let's see. I know a lot of folks that are here in the audience watch the film. So let's turn it to the audience for a little bit and see if you might, up to this point, have some pertinent questions or comments that you would like to make, and also if we could check on Facebook Live for questions. So any questions or comments yet?
I'd kind of like to hear a little bit more from folks.
We'll get the mic here for you. Sorry about that.
Yeah.
I'd just like to hear a little bit more from the patients, the identified patients, about what their life is like kind of on a day-to-day basis, or what the history has been, or like how
Yeah.
can you be here and what's it going to cost you?
Oh,
You know, to
Yeah.
actually be here now.
I can speak to that.
Sure,
We
go
were
ahead.
actually talking about that on the way over here, and I was like, yeah, this causes me some anxiety, and it's, just getting ready for this. I've been a little anxious about it, and I'm probably going to get through it just fine. But then I have planned a couple of days to just, totally recover. And I honestly wouldn't be surprised if tomorrow I have a migraine, because that often happens when I overdo it. I suffer with a migraine the next day. And so I guess that's how it is for me on a daily basis. I've had Dr. Bateman explain to me that she likens our energy in terms of money. So whereas one person might have $5 worth of energy to spend in a day. Another person might only have $1 of energy. And so you just have to prioritize and decide where, what's worth it to you and where you're going to spend your energy. And in this case, I'm probably going to be in the negative for a while. I'm going to be in debt, and I'm probably going to have to spend some time in trying to pay back that debt. So it's taken a lot of just trial and error for me to see what my limits are, what my triggers are as far as, as far as how much pain or, suffering I'm going to have. But I feel very fortunate that I am still able to, do something like this or go somewhere, do something with one of my kids. I feel like I'm functioning probably where I used to be. Maybe normally I'd function at 85, 90%, on a great day 100%. Now I feel like I'm functioning usually at about 20% of what my normal energy is. So I just have to get very, very picky about what I say yes to as far as where I spend my energy and what I just say, no, it's not worth it.
Well, and if I may say, and I know you've got a comment, and you never know exactly if you're guessing right.
Mm-hmm.
You don't know if, well, I think I can do it. I think I can. And
Or you're
then,
feeling good in the moment,
Yeah.
and you're like, oh, no, I'm doing okay. And then
Yeah.
it's not till the next day.
Yeah, and then you say, ooh, wow, I'm overdrawn.
Mm-hmm.
So you never really know, but I think Christy's getting better at judging, I can do this or you can't do that. No, it can't go.
Mhm.
And so,
If you were
which is great.
Yeah.
take your day and turn it into a timeline, like what does that timeline look like? When are you getting up, and I'm curious to know what that's like for other people.
Well, I no longer schedule any appointments until, I always say, like doctor's appointments or whatever, late morning or early afternoon. I go to bed kind of late, but if I don't get my 9 or 10 hours of solid sleep, then I just am not functioning at all.
But the beauty
So-
sleep is still working great, right?
So, we talk about, so I'll probably wake up at 9 or 10 in the morning, which the other day I had to take my car into the shop, and the guy said he was going to call me at 10, and I said, okay, well, hopefully I'll be up by then. And I'm thinking, that must sound so stupid. Really? Hopefully you'll be up by 10 a.m.? And so, but yeah, that's kind of normal for me. And throughout the day, I just do a lot of pacing. I shower twice a week, and then I pull out my dry shampoo, to save energy on other days. And throughout the day, I'll do a little bit, and then I'll rest. I find I do really poorly if I sit for too long or if I'm up for too long. So I'm kind of doing the back and forth thing. I'll even sometimes unload part of the dishwasher, rest, go back and unload part of the dishwasher, or take a shower and rest for a while, then go back and do my hair. So that's kind of how it looks. And then you just hope that nothing unexpected or a crisis or something.
Yeah.
Hope that nothing like that comes up. But what about you, Jessica?
I feel really blessed because we have our life structured in such a way that allows me to only use that little bit I have for the things that mean the most to me. And so we have our baby goes to daycare, and so Jay will, every morning our day looks like this. He'll wake up and get all 3 kids up and ready to go, and my mom, we live with my parents, which is another strategic move. We live in their basement, so Grandma comes downstairs and does sister's hair, and she kind of helps wrangle the kids for us, and then Grandma's off to work, and Jay and the baby are off to daycare and work, and then Grandpa takes the 2 big kids to the bus, and there I am, and I'll wake up at the crack of noon, and and sometimes, it's never, I don't feel like I have that well of a structured existence because it changes day to day. There are times when phases where I'll sleep until 6 o'clock. I will literally sleep until they get home. And we have folks that help us after school with the big kids, and we do all of this so that when Jay and baby come home, they get my full me. It's about an hour and a half, so it's baby's sister's time for bed. And I'm like, I cherish that hour and a half with my baby girl. And with my bigger kids, sometimes they'll come home a little early, and it's like they'll just come hang out with me in bed, and they get my full attention. And it also allows me to do things like this, where I get to volunteer and help out with the Bateman Horn Center wherever possible. And I'm so thankful for my husband and my parents who make that possible. And they ease every burden that could be, so that the moments I get are gold, and so that's something I'm very thankful for. And I wrote down a little quote that Omar said. He's like, every time you do something you love, I know you're going to pay for it. And as a caregiver, I'm sure, I know it's painful to watch them go through this over and over. And then he said, I also know that that's what makes you feel alive. And I'm thankful that Jay is willing to let me go through the pain. He's willing, when something's a big deal to me, like coming to this tonight or whatever the event is, he's willing to let me go into debt, knowing I'm going to have to pay for it, and knowing he's going to have to watch me pay for it. I have to rest up before. I joke I pay for it twice, because I pay for it before I go, and I pay for it after.
I did that too.
It's like
I didn't have anything scheduled for 2 days before this.
Yeah, and same here. Tomorrow, the next day, I'm planning on. We call them nothing days. We're like, it's a 0 day where we have 0 expectations and 0, responsibilities. As much as possible, right?
That's kind of what I think she means in the movie with missing. We're missing.
Yeah.
And I see that
Exactly.
because I'll want to interact with Christy, and I see that she's like gone.
Yep.
And so I know, oh, well.
Yeah.
We talked about what scenes touched us the most, and many of them did, but one of them was the protest scenes where they have all the shoes laid out on the ground, and each one of those pairs of shoes is somebody fighting this behind the door, and they're stuck in bed, and they're stuck fighting this battle and fighting the stigma that we talked about. My brother actually, he had just moved to New Jersey, was it last summer?
Right before the protest.
Right, before the protest, and I was telling him about it. I'm like, Thane, there's going to be a protest in your city, and he looked into it, and it was like 2 blocks from his house, and my big dreams, I'm like, I am flying out there, and I am going to that protest. It was like, no, that idea lasted about 5 minutes.
Yeah, I
But
think there's a reason that's their shoes.
yeah. And he went for me, and he put a pair of shoes out for me, and he even got one of those awesome red shirts and mailed it to me, the Millions Missing. And I love that that's going on, and perhaps someday we could organize one in Utah. And it's the film is doing such great things, just like that. You see these parents out there holding up the picture of their child, that they feel alone, and they feel like the visibility that we've talked about is such a huge deal. I think I don't know if every patient, but most patients could probably relate and raise their hand when they say, like, if you go to in your daily life, will you lie about your illness? It's like, yeah, I've lied many times. You just pretend to be a healthy person. I call it faking being healthy, because it's not worth the discussion. It's not worth the risk of having them you know, well, yeah, my cousin had chronic fatigue. And for a couple of days, you know, or, oh my gosh, I am so tired too. And it may be well meaning.
Take to explain it. All.
Yeah, and the energy it takes to explain. And for many years, I'd kind of dance my way around the topic, and now I've become a big advocate. And it's like, if you give me your ear, I will give you chronic fatigue 101 wherever I go. And we need more patients to do that. We need being willing to speak up, and it's exhausting. I'm not gonna lie. I mean,
But if you aren't bedridden and you know, for the few of us that can do that, I
Yeah.
think it's really important that we try to do something.
yeah.
And I like especially in the film where it shows the impact of social media on this as well, because in the past, the people who were bedridden didn't have a way to contribute, didn't have a way to find out anything about what's going on.
Yeah.
And now, even throughout this movie, we see people having the conferences together from
Yeah.
their bedrooms.
Mm-hmm.
And being able to connect in that way makes a huge difference for people, even though that itself takes energy.
Mm-hmm.
Being able to get your iPad figured out and getting it on there and having to deal with the time delay, like that makes the cognitive pain increase. But for some people, that's worth it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
where you would normally be isolated, now you have, you know, with that.
Mhm.
Community
Yeah.
that
And if-
understands.
I love the little like clips that it showed of each person that she interviewed, and the caregivers kind of, you know, the little boy sitting there rubbing his mom's head, like it just ripped my heart out. And he was it Spanish, or I don't know, he's speaking another language, and they were so excited to get to talk about it. I mean, you could just see them. It was like, oh, I'm telling somebody what we're dealing with, and it felt so good. I'm sure
We're not alone.
we're not alone.
Yeah.
So I have a question, you know, having said that, so did you specifically ask any of your family members or friends to watch Unrest when it came out, say on PBS or Netflix? Did you ask them to watch the film to better understand your illness, or, and if you did, what were you hoping the outcome would be?
I haven't yet, but I probably will, just in hopes that they will have a better understanding. I was a little hesitant to do so, like I said, because I'm not bedridden, and so many of the people in the documentary are, and so, and they see me on my good days. You know, they see me when we're having a family gathering or something like that. And it just barely came out on Netflix, so I think that, yeah, I think that I eventually will. But I even had one of my daughters, most of our children are young adults now, but had one of my daughters over today, and she has anxiety, and I had the movie on, and I was really hesitant because I didn't want her to worry that, you know, there's something really, really wrong, you know, and get stressed about it or worry about her own health.
There's a certain level of emotional debt that comes with this.
Yeah.
It's like recommending a World War II movie. It's like, hey guys, want to come over and watch Schindler's List with us on
Right.
Friday? Like,
It's pretty.
It's like,
There's-
intense.
you got to be kind of careful with the way you're recommending it, because this is something that you're going to go into, and it is going to require attention, and it's going to take energy. This is not just a casual show to just go watch and be like, oh yeah, that was a great chronic fatigue movie.
Not entertaining.
Yeah, but that's the hard part. So I haven't gone to many people individually and said, hey, you should go watch this show.
Mhm.
I've done some just generalized things on Facebook, but even that's kind of hard because nobody's really committed to doing anything about it.
Yeah.
So that's kind of my takeaway, is finding the right people who are already kind of on the fringes of the community and say, hey, you know what? We've talked about this a little bit. Maybe if you have a few minutes, I would be really interested in having you watch this and let me know what you think and what you see.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And that's kind of where I'm coming from on it.
hmm I pitched it to my physical therapist, you know, and I was like, hey, there's a great new movie. It's on. Hey, do you have Netflix? You know, and actually, she came back at my next visit, and she was like, I went and watched that show you were talking about, and it opened up this really neat conversation. And so that was a successful thing. And I also, my dear friend that also has MECFS, she did a little house party at her house that they kind of been recommending, and she invited her brother and sister-in-law and her husband, and Jay came, and he had to take the kids home because they were a distraction. But it was so fun for me to listen to their comments after, and somebody who knew relatively little about the illness, and he was kind of, you could see like things clicking. He was like, yeah, I remember you going through that. And she was very young when she got sick, and he goes, the thing I remember was how vibrant you were before, and then the switch when you got sick. And you know, I'm sure a lot of us would have like a wish list of like who we would really want to see this movie. But I have a similar experience where it's a little bit, you have to be careful who you recommend it to, but I hope it grows. I hope as the publicity grows and just the general acknowledgement of the illness, it's going to get easier and easier, I think.
Well, when you see, you know, at the Millions Missing demonstration, just all of those people, I mean, if you just think about the impact that has on society, all of those individuals are not able to function and participate in their lives and in their communities the way they would probably really like to.
Mm-hmm.
So
we're going to need to wrap up here in the next couple minutes. So quickly, is there a personal message that you would like to give to Jen Brea regarding her documentary and its impact?
2 thumbs up. It's great.
yeah.
It's a lot of work, and just needs to get out there.
I think it was very brave,
Very brave.
for
Yeah.
her to, yeah, and just the energy required, you know, when she has so little energy. I just appreciate her spending some of her energy on creating this documentary,
For sure.
just creating a conversation.
I think my main message to her would be one of gratitude. I am just so thankful that she did this, and I'm so thankful that kind of the stars aligned to give her the resources to do it. And I'm sure there's a lot of behind the scenes things that had to happen, and I'm so thankful that she introduced to the world the spectrum of MECFS, to realize that there are people that are working and sick and struggling, and there are people who are on feeding tubes and haven't spoken in I can't imagine not even being able to speak, you know, and the families that are impacted by that. I'm so thankful that she would be willing to follow her heart and make this happen.
I love having a face for it.
Yeah.
Like, I remember being younger, I think, okay, Parkinson's, you've got Michael J. Fox. I think about Magic Johnson and HIV. I love having this image of this bouncy-haired, smiling woman sitting cross-legged in her wheelchair as the face of this. I like having something to connect. I like having someone to connect to it. So that's my greatest appreciation is thanks for being willing to put your face on this. And I know it's not easy. I know it's a lot of energy, it's a lot of time, it's a lot of pain, and it's a lot of struggle to be the face of something like this. But thanks for being willing.
So with that, let's do another check for questions. Do we have some on Facebook Live, Marianne, or?
We do. We do have some on Facebook Live. Someone is asking if they are the sick person, what can you do to support your spouse?
Oh.
Yeah, let's dive into that for a bit, shall we?
That is a great question.
We don't
the
think
answer.
about that very often, do we? That's a great question.
Can I throw in something about that? Jay mentioned the scene where where Jen is having one of her meltdowns, and she's kind of just in that loathing, lamenting, like, why do you even stick around? I can't do anything. I'm not the wife and mom that you thought you were marrying, and so on. And his response is so sweet. He's like, I love you. You add joy to my life. And I think in those moments when they are giving you love back, take it. You know, take that love, take their appreciation, and don't dismiss it, because for them that is a big deal. You know, if he says I love you and I'm here because I want to be. Don't say no, you don't. You just say that. You know, just like take it and say, oh my gosh, he really does love me, and knowing in your heart that you would do the same for them. I would recommend that. And showing appreciation. A lot of times it's hard for him, but sometimes he'll open up and say, I feel so alone a lot of the time. We joke that he's a single dad a lot of the time because he's wrangling these 3 kids and working his butt off at work and while I sleep. And I hope I can be more appreciative of you. Because, thank you.
You're welcome.
Appreciation, gratitude.
Yeah, I think sometimes that's, appreciation is all I can really, sometimes all I really have to give to you. And he works so much, since I've stopped working, and I try to make an effort to go and tell him that I appreciate how hard he's working and stuff. And also, I apologize here and there. Just, for instance, we'll have a date planned, and he's planning on it, I'm planning on it, but the other day I just couldn't get rid of my migraine, and I just had to say, the smart thing for me to do here is to not go, otherwise it's just going to get worse. And so I just had to apologize, and of course he's very understanding and easygoing, but we just had to be flexible and change our plans, and he went out and got takeout for us and Netflix and
That was a great question, though. Any others?
Any other comments or questions from?
We do have a question online, I think maybe specifically for Jessica, which is, how were your symptoms while you were pregnant? Better, worse, the same?
Well, I was told that a lot of women feel better, and a lot of women feel worse. So I was the lucky one who got to feel worse, right? I mean, each pregnancy was different. I feel like with each one I was able to cope better. I think we were smarter with each one and a little bit able to prepare for the challenges that we had to deal with. But it was kind of like the normal fatigue with pregnancy discomfort on top. So I wish I could say I was like awesome. I met a really sweet mom, and she was like, I feel amazing when I'm pregnant. I just think I need to be pregnant for the rest of my life because I feel great, and I'm like back to me. So, but it was totally worth it. I will definitely say it was a struggle. It was like each day was like, why did I do this? But oh my goodness, we love those kids so much, and it was definitely worth it, for sure.
All right, I think with that we will call it a wrap. I just can't express my sincere appreciation and gratitude for you guys coming and being on this panel and being so honest and open with your comments. And wow, thank you for your advocating and helping out the cause and getting the word out. So thank you so much. We really appreciate it.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you guys. Really, I truly mean that from the bottom of my heart. You guys did great.
We appreciate you setting us up to give us the opportunity